So I had a couple of questions, and following up on what you said about the title search thing, while that may not have a direct economic impact on, the city or the county, for that city or county economy and those businesses in the area, that does have an impact. Because if you're a realtor or something like that, you don't get paid until everything closes. You don't get paid until, the final, you know, dot is dotted on that document. So I mean, that's kind of where we look at the I guess when you're talking about the 5.13 million, there's a lot of things that go into that. One question I had was, are they showing, or is IBM saying this money is coming out of pocket of the customer, or does this include insurance costs? Does this take into account for a public entity that they may be getting assistance from the county or from the state to help to offset costs? Does that take into account all of that?
It usually takes in all of the above, and that report has a really good breakdown of how the costs are broken down: recovery, response, and notification. If you have 100,000 people in your system that have just been affected by a breach, now you're paying some type of security monitoring services or credit monitoring services. That's a large chunk of recovery costs too that doesn't get factored in. And the painful part, based on your question, some of these fringe costs are not being covered by your insurance. So
Mm,
the insurance may come in and pay the ransom, but depending on how your policy is written, they may not be helping you with the credit monitoring services or the forensics cost and these things. So it is a little bit of everything that rolls into that cost, and they do try to factor in lost business. So if you're the Target breach from back in 2014, I mean they lost hundreds of millions because that happened during the holiday gift buying season and customers stayed away. So there's those impacts all roll up into this 5.13 million.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
Another question I had was, um, obviously ransomware is continuing to grow, and the cost continues to grow. Is there any indicator that there is not necessarily a stopping point, but that there will ever be a plateau? Is there anything we're seeing in regard to, um, you know, maybe FBI data showing the ability to track, catch, and potentially prosecute individuals who, are the bad actors? Is there anything indicating that we're ever going to see a plateau? Not necessarily just stopping, but at the very least, it's not going to keep growing exponentially.
yeah, unfortunately, when 2023 kicked off, there were reports almost bragging that, hey, ransom is dropping, or ransomware
Mhm.
attacks are dropping this year. So we started out a little slow, and then we ended up breaking a record. But based on what we're seeing and everything we're seeing from clients, working with our clients, as well as all of the industry reports that we try to gather and read, um, I I don't see this slowing down. It's one of the easiest methods for an attacker to get paid.
Mhm.
I can steal your data and try to sell it on the dark web, but I have to find a buyer who sees value in that data.
Mhm.
Nobody values their data more than the business owner or the stakeholder, right? We
Yeah.
value our data way more than we value someone else's, so it's easier to sell it back to the owner of the data than it is to someone else. So when you look at those things, and now you even have, and we didn't even really get into in the slide deck here, is you have the encryptionless ransomware attacks that are going on. They're even easier because
Mhm.
they're coming in and stealing data and holding that data for ransom and say, pay the ransom or we're releasing it publicly. So not even on the dark web publicly. They're going to put it out on a public website that anybody can get to. So that is
Yeah.
working, and that's ticked up in 2023. So it's very interesting. And as of right now, I don't see any way to slow this down other than trying to find the best controls possible. And we'll talk a little bit later about data backups. I mean, the goal is to not pay the ransom. But long answer to your question, I do not see this slowing down. So